on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station. Foodforliberty.com sells high-quality, storable foods from Numana. And right now, take advantage of our summer special. Purchase 2 family packs and we'll send you a Pro Pure Water Pitcher, a $70 value, free. This premium pitcher is ideal for use with just about any water source and removes more contaminants than other brands. And it comes with a filter that lasts up to 2 full years. Whether you need to be prepared in the event of an emergency, you're an outdoor sports enthusiast, Numana is known for high-quality, great-tasting, GMO-free, super nutritious food with no chemical preservatives. And with a 25-year shelf life, you can't beat the feeling of being food secure when you need it most. Go to foodforliberty.com right now for great-tasting, high-quality, storable foods from Numana. Buy 2 family packs and get the Pro Pure Water Pitcher free. It makes good sense to be prepared. Get it at foodforliberty.com.
Imagine no longer being tied down to your computer, but having the freedom to take live talk radio with you anywhere you go. TalkStream Live introduces our first ever iPhone application. The talk shows you follow now follow you, and your iPhone is now the fastest and easiest way to stay connected to the best talk radio on the internet. Let TalkStream Live transform the way you listen to radio. Listen to live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mobile talk radio from TalkStream Live. Now available in the iTunes App Store.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers. We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring 2 Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The 2 full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129, and use the promo code JCRTWS, and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to JimmyChurchRadio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Tepe.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
All right, welcome back to Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Bespoke Radio on the Game Changer Network, KGRA, The Planet. You can follow me on Twitter right now, at JChurchRadio. You can follow Mr. Wilcock at David_Wilcock on Twitter. And, of course, use the hashtag F2B. Okay, we were talking about Luc Montagnier. And go ahead, take it away, David. I'm very curious.
Yeah, this is very interesting science, which I've now demonstrated in both of my previous books, Source Field Investigations and The Synchronicity Key. You know, there's over 1,000 references in Source Field. There's 700 in Synchronicity. The new one has 250. A doctoral dissertation's only 120 to 150 references, so it's like I've done about 7 doctorates worth of work here,
right,
at least.
Right.
And what I've done is to put together an enormous body of data, all kinds of different specific things that were done in labs by credentialed PhDs, proving that the photon carries the code for life. It's a huge, huge missing piece of biology. I'll give you another weird example. The DNA molecule, if you put it in a room that has light in it, the DNA molecule will gravitationally absorb all the light and pull it into itself. It does this in some weird way that we don't understand. Every DNA molecule has 10,000 photons on the average banging around inside like it's a fiber optic cable. And when you break open the DNA, the light comes out, and you can measure it. So what appears to be happening is that the DNA needs that light very strongly. So there was a guy in the 1970s named Dr. Fritz Albert Popp, P-O-P-P, if you want to look him up. And what he did is he figured out why we get cancer. What makes something cause cancer? You know, there's that famous Joe Jackson song, everything gives you cancer, everything, right?
Yes.
It's annoying.
Yes.
But what is a carcinogen? What he found was, okay, let's compare the things that cause cancer and see what it is. Sure enough, he found something. And this is not known to mainstream medical science at all, even though the research is now 40 years old. What he found was that every cancer-causing substance scrambles light at 280 nanometers of wavelength. Now, why would that matter? Because that's the wavelength of light that your DNA needs. So when you have a carcinogen, your DNA cannot ingest light anymore. It doesn't absorb it like it's supposed to, which means that your DNA does not have the raw material, the energetic particles, if you want to call them that it needs to send out signals telling the cell to stop reproducing. And when cells grow out of control, that's when you get tumors, and that's what cancer is. So cancer is caused by not having light in your DNA. And there are ways to pump the light back in that make all of the stuff that we're doing right now no better than medieval leeches and bleeding. It's ridiculous. And they know this. This is one of the many things that are being hidden from us. And I'll tell you, when I did my audiobooks and people that didn't know anything about this, and then they learned about this, they got pissed off. Because everybody's got people they love who have died of cancer.
Of course.
And it's totally, totally preventable.
Well, so what do we do? How do we inject the light?
Well, there are certain things that you can do. There's a substance called Laetrile, L-A-E-T-R-I-L-E. I learned about this from the guy who wrote Creature from Jekyll Island. I interviewed him. His name will come to me in a second.
It's okay. We'll get it. We'll get it. The fade or nots are on it, David. The fade.
Edward Griffin.
Yes.
Edward Griffin.
Yes.
He's been selling this stuff for years. One of the best things you can do is just go to the health food store and get apricot pits. And they have this kind of, they sell them at the health food store. You just eat a few of those a day. And that will significantly reduce your risk of cancer.
Interesting.
And it's well documented, and yet if you look it up on Wikipedia, which is really CIA-pedia,
right,
they will tell you, oh, it's debunked. No. They just don't want to lose all the money they make from keeping us sick.
Yeah, exactly.
And then there's other technologies like pyramid technology. That's where it starts to get weird. I just have done a series of Wisdom Teachings episodes. We've recorded them. They're probably not going to come out till late August or early September. But I did a whole bunch of stuff on pyramids and how pyramids actually create all these healing effects. The Russians proved it. The pyramids will cure cancer. They'll cure diabetes. They'll cure everything. And all you have to do is drink water that was stored in a pyramid. It's that simple. And you just got to build the pyramid the right way.
Yeah,
so it's dirt cheap.
Yeah, do you remember in the early and mid 70s, all the pyramid power stuff that was out? Yeah, that's interesting.
That's Pat Flanagan, and he wrote the book Pyramid Power.
Right.
And the old experiments were that you would take a razor blade and put them in a cardboard pyramid. Sure enough, they'd stay sharp.
Right.
And that does work because there's certain laws of physics in which matter is actually taking in energy in order to exist. Think about an atom like a candle flame. Why do the electrons not run out of energy and crash into the nucleus? They're drawing off of something. This is another part of what the military considers classified science. They don't want you to know this. They don't want you to know. Well, they're starting to talk about it a little bit. They'll say dark matter, or they'll say dark energy, whatever. But the point is, it's actually very real. And when you have a particular object, it's going to soak in energy depending on its shape. So the pyramid shape is like a funnel, and when it soaks in energy, because this energy does have fluid-like qualities, that goes all the way back to Nikola Tesla describing this. Many other scientists have. I could geek out for 3 hours just on this one little detail. So the energy is fluid-like, and the pyramid makes a vortex. It's like watching water go down a funnel. The water doesn't go straight down. It starts spinning. So inside a pyramid, you have this spinning vortex activity. And what's actually spinning is gravity. Gravity does not just move straight down into the earth. It actually spins on the way in. And it creates certain effects you can measure called the Coriolis effect, where if you fire like a cannon, you got to actually correct for it because the cannonball will bend through the air. It doesn't go straight because gravity is twisting. So this is why, for example, toilets flush differently in Australia than they do in the Northern Hemisphere. Same principle.
Is that true? I always wondered about that.
The first thing I did, dude, when I went to New Zealand, that's the first thing I did. I couldn't tell, because then I'm like, well, shit, I didn't actually check what does it look like in America. I hadn't really thought about it.
Right. Yeah,
but it does apparently work. It does apparently work.
You know, somebody
based on this thing called the Coriolis effect.
Somebody in Australia is going to tweet in right now. You know they're going to.
I literally ran into the bathroom and flushed the toilet just to see. I did. It's funny, but I did.
Now, you and I were talking earlier today, and I stressed this on Coast over the weekend. I would have done it more on my show last week, but I had to let last week kind of simmer a little bit. But we need to unplug from this machine, and I don't know how we can do it, but right now the mass media is doing their very best to crush our emotional state right now. What do you think is going on with that?
Well, let me try to synergize where I was already going with your question. It takes about 3 moves to get there, but they're really cool moves.
Do it.
So what I was saying is, why does the pyramid work? The pyramid is a photon collector. It's collecting this energy from gravity, and when the gravity energy spins, you get something called virtual photons that they're like a quantum foam. These photons just show up, and they have more information density. When they're in a rotating capacity, they're actually more intelligent. They have healing capability that's coming in from the Earth. The Earth is built to heal us. It's built to make us healthy. The pyramid is like an acupuncture needle on the Earth's meridians that actually causes healing. So photons have all this cool stuff that's going to heal us, and it's going to, be stored in our DNA, and you pump the light back into the DNA, you don't have cancer. There's a lot of information density. In fact, the photon carries enough information that the entire universe was created from one single photon. And that's something I've been scientifically proving at conferences. I did it at Conscious Life, and I did some of it at Contact in the Desert. And I'm going to be doing a lot more with this concept. I'll probably write a book about it. So the entire universe started from one photon, which means that photon is so information dense that it had the entire information of the universe in it. So photons are very, very powerful. So what's happened is, sometime long, long ago, some group of, probably a planet, some kind of group of entities figured out that they could hack into the photon. And they could use the DNA address that can be stored in a photon so that they can exist as information. They can exist as energy that's conscious, but they don't need bodies. Instead, they can create bodies out of machines, but they still are conscious. They actually do exist as life in a sense, but it's not biological anymore. And this thing, for lack of a better term, is Satan. It's Lucifer. It is the force in the universe that is trying to take over the universe. And what it will do when it comes to a planet like ours is it will try to get us totally dependent on technology. So our faces are always buried in the internet, buried in our phones. And that's one of the last steps that it makes before we go over to what you were calling the singularity, where we wet wire the internet into our bodies. And once we do that, we're pretty much toast, because it will then use us to build up its infrastructure. We'll have dazzling technology for a while, dazzling intelligence. We'll get super health because now we're bulletproof and our bodies are indestructible. And it will use us to go and conquer some other worlds and infect those other worlds. But then once it's done with us, it kills us off. And so what's happened in our little neck of the woods is that it killed off a planet in our solar system 500 million years ago, or 500,000 years ago, 500,000 years ago. And then what it did is it infected these reptilian beings called the Draco. And they've been here since 375,000 years ago. And they are actually the sort of prototype of what we would think of as the devil, with the vertical slit pupils and scaly skin and horns and all this kind of stuff. Some of them have horns. Most of them don't. But so what we think of in our folklore as the image of demons, it's real. There are demons out there, and they do look really, really horrible to see. And we probably don't look very good to them either, but, that's just relative perspective.
Right.
So these beings have periodically, and they're being controlled by the AI. What we found from the SSP folks is that they captured some of these Draco. Normally the Draco would self-destruct if they're killed. Their whole body just goes, and everything's gone. But somehow they were able to either quick freeze them or do something to stop that. And they found out that there were just countless numbers of little living machines inside their bodies running the whole system. Without these machines, they wouldn't even be able to live. They're totally dependent on it. If you cut the power to the machines, they die. They're done. And so one of the things that appears to be happening is that the sun is going to give off a big EMP that's going to knock them all out. And all the Draco that are here will be wiped out. And apparently, the majority of their entire population in the galaxy is hanging out in our solar system. And there's this barrier that's gone up that's preventing them from escaping, made by benevolent angelic ETs. So it's like a honey trap. Like, they got lured in here. They took over our planet. Time is relative to them, so they don't see time the way we do. Imagine 1,000 years is now like 1 year. That would mean that if this super Earth blew up 500,000 years ago, that's only 500 years in the past for them.
Right.
They got here 375,000 years ago, which is only 375 years ago for them. So this all has happened to them pretty fast. And what they're doing, they have to follow certain cosmic laws. They can't just appear in front of us. They got to follow the prime directive. They can't enculturate. So they need people in the culture to do their bidding. What they will do is they have advanced surveillance, so they will scan the planet. They will look for who's the most vicious, the most ruthless, and the most well-moneyed. And then they will contact those people, starting out usually with some kind of occult black magic, like they're doing, ceremonies, and they're inscribing pentagrams and black candles and all this kind of black magic crap. And that's how you get in touch with these beings. And they will then start to talk to you, and they will start to appear. And this is where the folklore of the devil and demons comes from, is that they do appear sometimes, if you know what you're doing. I wouldn't want to do it, but I mean, some people do it. So eventually, what happened on our planet is that they have contacted various governments at various times, and they have, given them technology that's taught them how to take over the planet. And they have an edge because they can see into the future. They have probability modeling. So they can see what's coming so they don't get defeated, or it's much more difficult. So we now have a situation where the group on Earth that's really running the show is obviously not elected governments, and it's not really the military-industrial complex either. There's an occult group controlling that most people are now calling the Illuminati. It appears that there are some good guys in groups that would also call themselves Illuminati. So you can't just use that name as a bad thing. Some people are trying to do the right thing in those groups. So that's why we use the term the Cabal. And it's a kind of a more neutral term. So this Cabal, it is not elected. They don't run for office. They are very wealthy. They've been controlling the financial system, and they are ultimately in pacts with these demonic beings that do exist. And this is all a big, big thing for people to take in. They don't want to take it in. But it's becoming increasingly impossible to ignore the truth. You cannot ignore. They are shoving it in your face. And if you want a really good example, what's the real reason why the new movie Batman vs. Superman totally died in the box office? Because it is creepy as hell. I watched the extended version with the extra half hour. It's probably going to be what my next article will be about. Because every 60 seconds in some cases, at least no more than 2-3 minutes ever goes by in that film without some kind of insider symbol, some of which are less known. You have to be really educated on it like I am. But I can show people, I can take pictures of this and then put it on my website, and then you'll be able to see it, and that's what I intend to do. So okay, let me tell you some things. Batman is Lucifer, and Superman is Lucifer. And they make very, very blatant comparisons. They talk about Superman as the fallen angel. Superman is some angel that came to Earth and fell. And then at the very beginning, one of the very first scenes is the little kid, when he becomes Batman, he falls into this well, he falls to the bottom, he sees the bats start flying around him, and they levitate him back up through the well. So here he is, this kid, levitating with all these bats around him. And that is a satanic image.
He ascends. He ascends.
Yeah. And they make so blatant. They make it so blatant. And here's the other big secret. When you watch the movie, Jesse Eisenberg plays Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor is how they see Jesus Christ. So in the movie, they have this guy, and you can see a scene with Lex Luthor where he's got a shirt on. Oh, and he says he's kind of like a Google type or like a Facebook type, like one of these brilliant kids. And he says, I inherited all this from my father. You never see the father. So that's a reference to Jesus, because Jesus' father is unseen, but there he is. He shows up on Earth. He's got red hair. They don't give him a beard. That would be too obvious. But he's got the long red hair.
Right.
And then there's one scene, you can take a stop motion photo of this, where he has a shirt on, a T-shirt, where he is wearing a shirt that has a monkey that is pushing down one of those old-fashioned TNT switches, where it's like a T-bar that goes down into a box.
A detonator.
Like in the old-fashioned Roadrunner cartoons.
Yeah, detonator.
Yeah. And then on the box of the detonator is the all-seeing eye.
Oh, shut up. No,
I'm dead serious.
Really?
Right in the movie.
What?
So what are they saying? He is the guy who's trying to detonate the Illuminati. He's Christ, which they think is bad. Then it gets even better, because at the end of the film, this guy goes and gets one of the corpses that's on ice from the previous Superman film, one of these gods that had come here to fight Superman and was killed, but they kept his body. And he cuts open his hand, and then his blood mixes with the body, and he sticks it into this ship that they have from the extraterrestrials when they landed, and it creates this big monster. And the monster fights Superman and nearly kicks his ass, and it takes Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman to defeat this thing. And then the thing's heart is glowing, the sacred heart of Christ. So this is their view of Christ. They see it as a demon. And they have these scenes with Jesse Eisenberg, Lex Luthor, and they keep focusing on the X. The X is often used as a symbol for Christ, like the crucifix. They're always showing you the X of Lex Luthor. You get all these scenes at the end with him where he's cut his hand, and he's got a bandage over his hand, and then the bandage falls off, and you're actually seeing his bloody palm. So they're not being subtle.
Wow.
And this is one of the biggest movies of the year, and it's in your face. And if you know as much as I do about this group, then you're seeing new symbolism every minute or two. It's throughout the entire movie. It's unbelievable.
Now you're going to have, David, as you know, we have a big audience, and they're listening to this right now, and there's going to be those out there that are going to go, Wilcock is using the metaphors of a Hollywood movie here. He's going way too far with this. Why?
Yeah, but dude, in the movie they actually have a picture of Lucifer as the fallen angel, and you have Jesse Eisenberg, whose voiceover. They're talking about fallen angels in the movie over and over again, and they keep making very direct comparisons between Superman and the fallen angels repeatedly.
Sure,
you can't ignore it.
And
you can't ignore it.
Well, Eisenberg, I know, was the Antichrist, but that's a whole other story. That's a whole other story. But why would they choose to put I know, symbology that is all over Hollywood, and we know who controls Hollywood. There's no doubt about that. But why use this movie for this vehicle in such a direct manner?
They are doing it in many, many, many movies, but they are doing this because whether your conscious mind knows it or not, your subconscious is actually picking up the symbolism. So your conscious mind may not think, well, hey, Jesse just cut his hand. That's kind of like the stigmata wound. And then the stigmata wound makes this demon that's got this glowing heart.
Right.
But your subconscious sees him wearing this shirt that's got a monkey with a TNT blowing up the all-seeing eye.
Yeah, the bloody palm. The bloody palm is pretty.
The bloody palm was so obvious. Like, oh my Lord, I couldn't believe it.
Oh, man.
Why are they doing this? Because they intended to officially reveal themselves and take over. And you either join the group or you go to a camp. And I'm not talking about summer camp.
Yeah, totally.
That's what they intended.
And going back to my point earlier, the cloud that is around the earth right now, this darkness, is it because it's an act of desperation right now? Is it some kind of
Oh, absolutely. And I'm going to give you another really interesting thing. There's a movie that just came out called 0 Days. I highly recommend that you see this film. You've got the guy who's like the head of the NSA, the head of the CIA for many years, talking about the fact that war used to be Army on the ground and Navy on the water, and that was how wars are fought. Then, beginning in the 20th century, now you add Air Force. The fourth dimension of war that is every bit as important as those other three is cyber operations. And nobody wants to talk about defensive or offensive cyber operations. And so this film, 0 Days, is describing whistleblowers coming forward who say that the U.S. and Israel collaborated on a cyber weapon to try to destroy Iran's nuclear reactors, to actually make them explode.
Yeah, Stuxnet.
And it did work.
Yeah, Stuxnet.
Yeah. Iran had about 7,000 centrifuges, and this virus was able to make about 1,000 of them explode and leak radioactive material. So it did work. But then they got caught, and Iran then bumped up their production to 20,000 centrifuges. And now they've actually, as of 2015, signed a non-proliferation treaty, and they've dialed it way back, and they're totally monitored, and they can't make radioactive stuff that's going to actually be weaponizable.
Yeah, the documentary, we got to take a break right here. The documentary, 0 Days, I recommend it to everybody. And before you think that stuff is not possible, watch the movie. It really happened. This is Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, the one and only David Wilcock. We're talking about what we can do about this control that is all over us right now. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. More with David right after this short break. Stay with us, everybody.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Poor water quality is a major health issue, and it's only getting worse. Municipalities can't keep up, standards have dropped, and pollutants are increasing. Where does it all end? It ends by keeping the pollutants outside of your home with HydroCare's advanced systems available at Wave Home Solutions. No less than the best purification materials and processes have been developed by HydroCare to provide you with healthy, clean water for drinking, cooking, and showering. HydroCare far surpasses the competition in removing chlorine, odors, iron, lead, chemicals, limescale, and much more. Don't settle for less when it comes to your water. We'll take care of the toughest water problems for you, whether it's from a city or well source. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, call 888-997-WAVE. That's 888-997-WAVE. Or go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
Did you ever turn to your radio for your favorite talk show to find that it's been preempted for this?
In the air, to deep right center. That goes Lewis to the wall. And it's out of here!
Or this?
And I'm ashamed of you, Hillary, for voting for it.
Do you have a favorite talk radio program that's not available in your city? Just go to TalkStreamLive.com for links to the best streaming talk radio shows. At TalkStream Live, you will find live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All your favorites are here. With such a large selection, you will also discover some new favorites. On the go and still want to listen? With a mobile smartphone, simply type TalkStream Live on your internet browser. Now you can take internet radio with you. You will also find hundreds of music, news, and sports streams. Best of all, the TalkStream Live directory is free and there's never a login required. Remember TalkStreamLive.com, the fastest route between you and your favorite talk radio show.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, David Wilcock. Tomorrow night, Corey Good is going to be here, and he's got a new web project that has just launched. We're going to talk about his latest research. And then Wednesday night, Lori McDonald is here. And tonight it's all about David. David, mentioning this, it's like a Hail Mary pass right now. I kind of feel what's going on.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and you had said to me earlier today when I called and I was like laying on your couch and going, dude, what am I going to do? You were like, man, I'm cool. And I was like, how can that be? Well, what is it, David, that we can do to combat this and not get sucked into the darkness?
Well, I brought up 0 days for a reason. Because if you don't already believe what I've been trying to tell you, that I've been relaying information from very, very bleedingly high-level security clearance insiders. Cyber operations, we are in a cyber World War III. That's what the movie doesn't really say. They only give you a little taste of it. But if you actually look at how many hacking events of such high profile have taken place,
right,
there's some very, very, very big stuff going on that we never really hear very much about.
Right.
We never understand, okay, why did the Clinton Foundation just get hacked? What's going to be found on there?
Right.
And there was an FBI insider who just came forward recently, Jimmy, you probably saw this, where the guy is saying, this will bring down the entire government. If we release what we found in the Clinton Foundation server, it's the equivalent of dropping a nuke on New York City, and we don't want to bomb our own country.
Right.
There are certain countries that will immediately go to war with us if we release what this information contains. But this war is against the cabal. It is not against the legitimate American government. It's against these people who have been trying to kill us, and there's a great deal of the American military. We're going to have to rethink some of this stuff because, believe it or not, 74% of the CIA, as one example, is now the good guys, roughly speaking. They're actually fighting for us and not for the cabal. And there are internal wars going on in these governments between the cabal and the elected government. And guess what? In the UK, the good guys made a huge victory by winning the Brexit. What we're seeing with the Euro and the EU is a Soviet Union-style slow-motion train wreck collapse, which is a very good thing because the Euro and that whole plan was part of that New World Order, one world currency.
No doubt.
And look what it's done to Portugal and Spain and Italy and Ireland.
Greece.
These countries, you got 70% youth unemployment. I mean, it's unbelievable. And nobody talks about, oh, yeah, the economy's in a recovery. Come on.
Right.
Enough. America is worse than the Great Depression right now. There's stores closed all over the place. And it's just unbelievable because it's like if a tree falls in the forest, does anybody hear it? Well, if there's a depression, does anybody say it? Well, if you don't say it, is it a depression or not?
Right.
Well, apparently not. But everybody kind of knows this stuff. Everybody's hurting. You can't just get a job and make good money anymore. Why would you go to college? You're going to just be in debt and you're not going to get any better jobs when you get out.
Right.
Everything's changing. So the youth are really pissed off because their parents still believe in this whole go to college and, well, you need to go to college because you need to get a good job. And then the kid's going to be like, well, wait a minute, I'm not going to get a job. I'm going to get $100,000 of debt. And then I'm going to be working at Dairy Queen. So they don't want, so you got 35% of the kids, 35 and under, living with their parents, which is an astonishingly high number. That's a third of the entire population who's not leaving home. And they're ripping bong hits in the basement.
Right.
And not that that's necessarily bad if that's your thing.
Not necessarily a bad thing.
It's a lot better than pharmaceutical drugs, I'll tell you that much.
Not necessarily a bad thing. But there's something else.
So I wanted to get to the point.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Let me finish.
Yes.
And then we'll go from here. But what I wanted to say was you have this group that is literally trying to kill billions of people. And it is sobering as a slap across the face. There are a lot of people who do not want to do this. They do not want to look at this. But it's getting more and more in your face. And what I'm telling you is, if you throw up, you'll feel better. And so these cyber operations, these hacks, they are building up to some sort of major police action against the cabal. It's happening in stages. The cabal keeps getting all the pillars knocked out from under them. But there is going to be some sort of decisive collapse. We don't exactly know when, but we know that they see it coming and that they are fleeing in massive numbers to Antarctica because they have some bases under the ice down there that are heated by geothermal from natural volcanic hotspots. So there's these ice domes inside that are very, very, very large. And they're moving everything they got down there because that's the only place left on Earth they can hide. And so they're expecting something. And it very likely will involve a combination of a lot of people being arrested all at once, some kind of new financial system, and some kind of open acknowledgement to the public of what's been going on. And I've been saying this for years, and people get pissed off because it hasn't happened yet. And you got to look at it from the big picture. These guys are only going to get one chance to do this right. So cut them some slack because it's very obvious that this war is going on. And Brexit was a huge, huge indication of it. This is exactly the kind of stuff that I've been saying all along. The cabal doesn't get defeated all at once. Brexit was a major defeat for them. The next thing that's going to happen is France is going to leave. Germany's going to leave. Greece is going to leave. The whole frickin' thing is going to come apart. And we're also going to see the corruption of the Federal Reserve exposed, finally, out in the open. There's a lot of people in our own military and our own government who want this. So what is the cabal doing? They are doing the only thing they know how to do, which is to try to traumatize us and distract us. But you know what? They're getting trigger happy. They're doing it too often. It's like a junkie who needs another fix just to get a little bit high. And the more often they do this stuff, the faster people wake up, and the more we see through it. And it doesn't get the desired results anymore. So when they shot up the Pulse Club in Florida, the goal for shooting up the Pulse Club was to try to get gun control. Well, let's get the LGBT lobby on our side. Didn't work. Now they're trying to do a race war. Now they're trying to get white versus black. That's not going to work either. People understand what's really going on. And isn't it interesting that all this stuff happens right after the FBI says Hillary's not guilty? And then, Hillary has become unelectable. She cannot win the election. And the reason why is that she is no longer authorized to handle classified material because we know what she's going to do when she gets it. She's going to sell it on the black market. That's what she's been accused of, and it's true. So we now know, this election situation is so bizarre. It's so completely Mickey Mouse. It's unbelievable. And everybody is seeing through it. And so that is part of the ensemble of unpleasant emotional stress that people are seeing right now that you were responding to, Jimmy. But as with my vantage point as an educated observer, I see this as a death rattle. This is the cabal like freaking out. And I had dreams before all these shootings started saying, David, don't go after the cabal in a big way right now because they're wounded and they're on the run and they're really pissed off, and if you attack them too hard right now, they're going to hit back. So just take it easy for a while. And then right after they tell me this, boom, 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 all these things happen.
Well, you know what's interesting, David, is, and you and I have talked about this for a couple of years now, but certainly over the last year, this election has been the strangest thing playing out on a stage in front of us that it's never been like this before in the history of the world. And yet, as dark as it is with either candidate, it doesn't matter. We are in a paradox because we're damned if we do and damned if we don't with either candidate. And if Hillary is indeed unelectable, and I agree with what you are saying, what everybody is saying about classified information and taking away her top secret clearance and her ability to handle classified information because she blew it and she has blown it, and how that's going to move forward. If they actually pull that off in Congress and they really do strip her of that, well, then she's unelectable. But then does that really leave Trump, and what the hell are we going to do then? Well, now this is a very interesting thing because the two main candidates that the people in the alliance have always said they would love to see win would either be Trump or Sanders. And I have very, very significant trouble with the way that Trump has conducted himself as a public figure. Mm-hmm. He's made so many mistakes. But the really bizarre thing, if you hear about it from the inside, is, look, the cabal did not want Trump to win. They dumped $130 million into Jeb. There was a very strong lobby hoping for Jeb. No kidding.
Fox News, which is obviously a propaganda arm of the cabal, for the right-wing side of the cabal at least, they did everything they possibly could to try to kill Trump off. And Trump has, as much as he's said things that really, really violate my sentiments, and I have strong objections to his xenophobic, racist, misogynist crap.
Right.
The cabal sees it as a catastrophic failure of their entire operation if he wins. They cannot allow him to win because he knows exactly what's going on. He knows who they are, he knows what they're doing, and he is actually a self-made billionaire. He did not get it from working with them. He actually made it on his own. So even though he clearly has narcissistic personality disorder and all these other things, he is actually a very serious enemy for them, and he has balls of steel, and he's fighting them, and it's unbelievable. So I kind of think of the whole thing like a circus. In my head, I probably shouldn't say this out loud, but I call him Trumpy the Clown. But hey, Trumpy the Clown is frickin' kicking ass. Okay, I'm sorry left-wingers, I have a lot of right-wing friends in the military, and, this is very bizarre.
Okay,
because he's getting himself in trouble like crazy. It's unbelievable. But somehow he knows what's going on, and he has exposed a whole lot of things that the cabal is doing that they would never normally allow a candidate to say.
Are you sitting down? You ready?
Yeah.
Breaking news just released as we are speaking. Republican House Speaker Paul Ryan's request to block Hillary Clinton from receiving classified intelligence briefings was denied by Director of National Intelligence James Clapper 1 hour ago. In a letter to Ryan, Clapper wrote that he did not intend to withhold briefings from any officially nominated eligible candidate. Wow.
Holy crap.
Holy crap.
See, they're overplaying it. So what they're trying to do now is all these shootings, all this chaos is because they are seeing how pissed off people are at Hillary. And Hillary is now their only hope. They cannot allow Trump to be elected. The first thing he's going to do when he gets elected is he's going to start dumping all kinds of documents all kinds of damning things.
He's not going to go down.
Be doing mass arrests.
Right.
Like you can't imagine.
Yeah,
they are terrified of this guy.
He's not going to go down without a fight, for sure.
I don't know what's going to happen. As an intuitive and as a person who's a watcher of trends, I actually don't think there's going to be an election because they can't really let it happen. Hillary's not going to be able to be given classified information, regardless of what Clapper just said. There's too many people in the alliance that are going to make that case, and the public uprising will happen. And there's a lot of people who don't want Trump to be president, so he's very compromised. It's very interesting.
Yeah, and you brought up something that I was talking about this last week, and this entire racial divide that is being pushed on us, because that's what it is. It's not coming from us. It's being fed to us. There's a difference there. And we're not only are we not buying into it, but I think by and large, we all have moved on from the racial divide that is being pushed. It just doesn't exist. You live in Los Angeles along with me, and the last thing that you can be in Los Angeles is racist. You can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, look, man, you can't. My father I grew up meeting some of the most famous blues musicians. My father wrote the biography on Buddy Guy, who's the guy that influenced Jimi Hendrix to play his guitar that way. 100%. So I like black people. I like every type of person. I didn't even understand racism. I couldn't wrap my head around it.
Yeah, I don't see
color. There are some places in the South where it still happens. It can happen, but it's by and large a relic.
It is. It is.
It's old school.
It's
it's ridiculous.
So old school. I mean, I just don't see color. And I am just like you or everybody else. I don't see color because I'm me. I don't see color because that is the way that all of us are now. I mean, we've grown up and have moved. Like you said, it's a relic. And to have it turn around and pushed back on us right now, we're like, wait a minute, man.
All it actually does, see, this is the thing. They don't understand the consciousness shift. The cabal doesn't get that we are going through a heart-opening, energetic transformation that's going to lead to people becoming a lot more ethical and a lot more positive. And so what's happening is that when they do this, it's triggering healing responses. And I'll give you a really good analogy. Back in the 80s, I was researching chaos and complexity theory. And in complexity theory, they have some very interesting discoveries. You can model out a pile of sand, and as the sand is forming, let's say there's a stream dumping down like in an hourglass. Every now and then, that pile of sand is going to have an avalanche. And when it does, the entire sand pile reforms in what they would call a higher level of complexity. So what they've done with computers is they've modeled these sand piles, and they know what every particle is doing and where the stresses are and where is it apt to move. So here's what's amazing. When the system reaches peak chaos, peak stress, you can no longer predict the location of a particle in the future, where it's going to go, what it's going to do. It becomes all chaotic. And at that point, even one operator in the system, one single particle, can determine where the avalanche goes. There will be an avalanche, but the avalanche is only something that reformats the pile to a higher level of complexity where it immediately rebuilds itself.
Right.
So what that means is you cannot collapse the global economy. You cannot create a race war. All you're doing is you create a little avalanche here or there, which causes the system to reformat into a higher level of intelligence that's actually better. And so they don't understand this. The harder they try, so these are called CAS, or complex adaptive systems. And a complex adaptive system is any system that has a variety of operators working within it with a certain given set of rules that they all have to follow. So that would be like an economy, and it also would indicate social situations of people interacting in groups. And as individuals, there's simple rules, that social engagement, there's simple rules in terms of economics. So you can't collapse an economy. You can't take over a planet. You can't create a race war. All they're doing is they're tweaking it more towards a greater level of order. And here's the other thing. Although they have tried in the past successfully to, create chaos and then determine how the restructuring takes place, those were much simpler systems. The systems now, the amount of instant communication we have with the Internet, the complex adaptive systems now are so advanced that what they know from this research is you cannot predict the outcome or steer the outcome of the system change in advance. It will just go to whatever is the more intelligent and the higher structure, which is not them. So they cannot foresee the outcome. They cannot control the outcome. And this is science. This is straight-ahead chaos theory. It's going to become better. And I believe that what we're seeing right now is the global economy is getting ready to have its own avalanche, but it's not going to be bad for very long. We're starting to see it with Brexit, but that's going to lead to the sand pile doing this little thing, and then it becomes much more organized and much more beneficial. And so we know that there are groups that are fighting for this. We know that they have our best interests in mind. We know that they intend to create a much fairer system and a system in which all kinds of black market technology that they've kept off the books is going to be released to us.
I have to ask you a question about if Trump is elected, the suggestions of changes that he wants to do out of the gate are pretty extreme. Is he going to be allowed to do the things that he wants to do, and certainly in such a short period of time?
Every president makes outrageous campaign. Every presidential candidate who becomes nominated, they make outrageous campaign promises that never can be done. We have a very broken idea of how much a president can do. So a president has to go through, the legislative branch, which is Congress. Congress has to vote on this stuff. If the president wants to make a new law, he doesn't just get to become the dictator. We live in a democracy. We have executive branch, legislative branch, and judicial branch, and there's supposed to be checks and balances. It doesn't always work, but the system is still relatively good. So you can't just have a dictatorship. You can't just have somebody say, yep, we're going to build a wall, and everybody in Tijuana, if they try to cross the wall, we're going to gun them down with machine guns. It's not going to happen.
Right.
So, no, he doesn't have the ability to make all those changes. He's a cowboy. He's got a lot of swagger. He's got guns on both hips, and he's ready to use them. But, this is not the Wild West, dude.
Yeah.
We're living in a democracy.
And then we flip it back over to Hillary. And one of the things, and you and I talked about this off the air today, so I want to get back to it. When it comes to Comey and the FBI and the fact that everybody backed off really quickly after what has been a really, really long and thorough investigation, certainly she was guilty of a lot of things, but they just decided to. If it would have been you or I, David, guilty of the same things, we're being charged, right? We're lawyering.
You'd be dropping the soap.
Right, be dropping the soap. But yet with Hillary, they backed off. Is it because that there would be too many other politicians, and possibly even in the Pentagon, that would be guilty of the same offenses? Mishandling of classified information, personal email servers, and
that's an interesting idea. I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, that could be part of it.
Yeah, because they're
all so dirty, dude.
Right.
And you know this. Everybody listening knows this.
And
they're so compromised.
And the content.
But how do we? Here's another thing, right? How do we restore the republic? How do we get a socially acceptable change where we expunge the cabal, and folks like the listeners on this show can actually feel good about being Americans again, or whatever country they're from, they feel good about their country and they feel good about the world? It's a tall order, because there are a lot of people in the system that are corrupt, but we're going to have to, we can't be OCD about this. We can't expect that every single person who's ever gotten their hands dirty in any way all have to be dealt with the same way, because there's not going to be anybody left to run our systems. So we're going to need to have, whether we like it or not, we're going to need to have some degree of amnesty. We're going to need to give some people the freedom to change their ways and come clean and they're going to have to be supervised, so they can't go back and start doing, pentagrams in the bathroom and trying to summon Lucifer in the bathroom. Okay, but you can't expect that every single person who's ever been compromised in any way are all going to be dealt with. There's too many. We need people to be able to run this stuff. So what's going to happen is we're going to have a transition in which some people are given amnesty. The worst criminals are given trials, but we're going to have to go through a transitional period, and there may be some bumps in the road. There are going to be people that we thought we could trust who are going to be turncoats, and we're going to have to deal with that as it happens. But what I'm looking forward to is transparency. I'm looking forward to a much more open system. Bookkeeping does not need to be occult. We have the internet. We can be aware of where the money is going. We can audit the budget ourselves. Go on the website, find out exactly where your money's going. That's what we need. And we need a transparency also in terms of the truth. And this is interesting because even the regular American government is now telling high-level insiders like Pete Peterson, I spoke to him last week, and they're saying, tell everything. That's where we're at.
Yeah, it's funny. A tweet just came in from John, and he says, Jimmy, when it comes to Trump, I get the feeling that you and David have only listened to news blurbs. And that right there is telling, in that everybody out there, it doesn't matter who you are, nobody, not myself, not David, not John here in Twitter, nobody has sat down and broke bread with Trump and hung out with him. You only know what you are fed. That is it. I have followed Trump since I read his book, The Art of the Deal, 30 years ago. Okay, wow. I followed him. I've always looked up to the guy. Okay, that doesn't mean I think he should be president, but that's a whole nother thing. But when somebody tweets out something like this, they need to understand exactly what they just tweeted, because he doesn't know. I don't know. None of us have sat down and hung out with him. It hasn't existed.
Do you think the trend line of that tweet is him saying that he likes Trump more than we're talking, or that he doesn't like Trump more than we're talking?
Oh, I think that he thinks that he understands Trump better than we do. And that's impossible. That's absolutely impossible.
I have really done my due diligence, and I have been utterly astonished at the number of